There she was, Karen Longstreet, the president of our HOA. I couldn't believe my eyes when I checked the footage from my doorbell camera. She was right there on my front porch, standing like she owned the whole block. She glanced left, then right, then bent down and scooped up my package like it had her name on it, tucked it under her arm, pulled her beige cardigan around it like she was smuggling something secret, and walked off like nothing ever happened. No rush. No guilt. Just business as usual. I sat there staring at the screen, stunned. I mean, sure, Karen was known for being bossy, always quoting the HOA handbook like it was the Constitution, but this was different. She wasn't just nosy anymore. She was flat out stealing. And it wasn't some big expensive thing either. It was a regular delivery, mine. I'd heard the rumors. Neighbors whispered about her controlling ways, how she watched everyone from her window like some suburban security guard. But I never imagined she'd go this far. And the wildest part? That package was just the beginning. But right before we dive into the full story, I'd really appreciate it if you gave this video a like. It helps more than you know and lets us keep sharing stories like this. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button too. We post new HOA drama just about every day, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. And hey, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. It's always such a joy to see which town, city, or small corner of the country you call home. When I first moved into Lakebridge Village, it felt like I had finally hit the jackpot. The lawns were greener than a golf course, the mailboxes all matched, and folks actually waved when they passed by. After years in a noisy apartment downtown, I thought I'd found my own little slice of suburban heaven. The house was a fixer-upper, sure, but I liked the bones. Plus, the neighborhood had a community pool, tennis courts, walking trails, all the things you'd see on a brochure that makes you think, yup, this is where I'll finally relax. That dream lasted 3 whole days. I remember the moment I met her. I was rolling my trash bin to the curb on a Tuesday afternoon when I heard the sound of determined footsteps crunching across the sidewalk. I turned and there she was, Karen Longstreet. Short blonde hair, stiff posture, beige cardigan fluttering behind her like some kind of HOA superhero cape. Clipboard in hand. She smiled like a politician, all teeth and no warmth. "Excuse me," she said, voice sugary but sharp, "trash pickup isn't until Thursday. Bins are only allowed curbside after 6 p.m. on Wednesdays. That's outlined in Section 4B of our HOA guidelines. You did read them, didn't you?" I blinked. I thought today was pickup. The moving company told me Tuesday. "Oh," she said, eyes narrowing just slightly. "Well, now you know." She scribbled something on her clipboard and walked off like she just defused a bomb. That was my welcome. At first, I thought she was just one of those overly involved neighbors. Every street has one, right? Someone who cares a little too much about what color your shutters are. I laughed it off and figured I'd keep my head down. But Karen wasn't just involved. She was running the HOA like it was a private kingdom, and she was queen bureaucracy. Within a week, I got a formal notice on my door. A violation. My garden hose was visible from the street. The whore. The next week? Another one. Garage door left open for more than 22 minutes, according to the timestamp she apparently recorded. Then came the issue with my grass. It was a half-inch too tall. An inch. Each letter came in a cream-colored envelope with the HOA logo on it and a sticky note that read, "Let's all do our part to keep Lakebridge beautiful." Signed, Karen L. Always that perky signature, like she was doing me a favor by micromanaging my existence. Still, I played along. I trimmed the grass, coiled the hose, kept the garage closed even while I unloaded groceries. I figured if I followed the rules, she'd get bored and move on. She didn't. If anything, my polite compliance seemed to agitate her. Like I was robbing her of the argument she clearly wanted. She started inspecting my property more often. I'd catch her standing at the edge of my lawn, notebook in hand, jotting things down like she was working for a crime lab. Then came the decor violation. I'd hung a small wind chime, one of those gentle tinkling kinds that makes your porch feel cozy. 2 days later, violation notice. Unapproved sound-producing ornament visible from the street. It was like living in a gated community run by a Disney villain. But here's the thing, I wasn't the only one. I started noticing the same cream-colored notices on other doors too. Newer residents mostly. A neighbor down the block got fined for non-standard curtain fabric visible from the front window. Another one was told to repaint their mailbox, even though it matched everyone else's. It started to feel personal. One day during an HOA meeting held in the community center, yes, I went because I had questions, I dared to raise my hand. I asked if repainting all the mailboxes every 2 years at the homeowner's expense was really necessary. Karen stared at me like I just asked if we could all start raising goats in our yards. Well, she said, smiling tightly, we must maintain visual harmony. Otherwise, property values will drop. A few people nodded automatically. Others just looked tired. After that, things got worse. I began receiving violations I couldn't even understand. Unapproved holiday decor, in April. I didn't have any holiday decor. Then came the offensive yard placement citation, which turned out to be about a watering can I'd left near the porch. A watering can. I started to suspect she was just making things up. So, one evening I checked my security camera footage after receiving a new violation, yard clutter. I hadn't left anything out that day. What I found made my jaw drop. At around 6:13 a.m., long before most folks were awake, Karen appeared on the footage. She walked past my yard, and paused. She looked around, then bent down, pulled a small, faded plastic planter from her tote bag, and placed it near my porch steps. Took a photo. Then walked away. She had planted a violation. My jaw dropped. I replayed it 3 times. She didn't just enforce the rules, she manufactured them. And that's when I knew something deeper was going on here. Something way beyond trash day or garden hoses. I wasn't just dealing with a nosy neighbor. I was living next door to a tyrant in beige slacks. And she had declared war. A week after catching her sneak that planter onto my porch, things got even weirder. I had just launched a new consulting business and was working from home most days. With that came a lot of deliveries, office chairs, printer paper, extra monitors, cables, you name it. The kind of stuff you don't think twice about ordering. Especially when you live in what's supposed to be a quiet, safe neighborhood. Then one Tuesday a package never showed up. Amazon said it had been delivered at 12:47 p.m. I was home all day, didn't hear the doorbell, didn't see anything at the door. Thought maybe the driver made a mistake, so I checked the doorbell camera. What I saw nearly made me fall out of my chair. Karen. At exactly 1:06 p.m. she walked up to my porch. Clipboard in hand, cardigan swinging behind her like always. She looked left, then right, real slow, and then casually leaned down, scooped up my brown Amazon box and tucked it under her arm like it was a pie she'd just borrowed from a neighbor. Then she walked off. Calm as can be. No hesitation. Like she belonged there. I stared at the footage in disbelief. This wasn't a package mix-up. This wasn't a porch pirate in a ski mask. This was the president of our HOA stealing right off my doorstep. I wanted to run across the street and confront her. Demand she give it back. But something told me not to, not yet. I needed more than one video. One incident and she'd spin the story her way. I was just protecting the community, she'd say. I could already hear it. So I waited. I planned. I went to the hardware store the next morning and bought a cheap motion-activated camera. I hid it inside a potted plant right beside my door, angled just enough to catch anyone approaching the steps. The doorbell cam got the face. The plant cam got the hands. 3 days later, another delivery. This time, a box of printer ink. Guess what? It disappeared. And guess who appeared on camera again? You already know. Karen strolled up like she was on a neighborhood inspection tour, holding one of those cheap plastic folders full of official documents. She even had a fake ID badge hanging from her neck that read Lakebridge HOA Enforcement. Like she was part of some private security force. She paused, scribbled something in her notebook, then picked up the package, glanced around like she was swiping a candy bar from a gas station and walked off. Again. I stared at the screen and laughed, not because it was funny but because it was insane. This woman had turned our neighborhood into her own little kingdom and was now stealing packages in broad daylight under the guise of rule enforcement. I shared the footage with my next-door neighbor, January. She's in her 60s, retired librarian, always has binoculars and herbal tea. Quiet lady, but she's seen everything. When she saw the footage, she gasped. Oh my lord. I knew she was bad, but this is something else. I asked if she'd ever had anything go missing. Jan nodded slowly. Last month, my granddaughter's birthday gift. A big art set. Said it was delivered but never showed up. I thought maybe the driver left it at the wrong house. Now I'm not so sure. I asked around a little more carefully. Turns out, several neighbors had similar stories. Small packages disappearing. Things marked delivered, never arriving. But no one had ever thought to suspect Karen. Why would they? She was the one sending out warning letters and fining people for not trimming hedges. By the end of the week I had 3 videos. 3 separate days, 3 different stolen packages, all swiped by Karen. I saved them all, time-stamped, high quality, perfectly clear. I was just about ready to go to the police when something new happened. One morning I stepped outside and found a cream-colored violation envelope taped to my front door. This one read, "Unauthorized political signage displayed in view from the street. In violation of Section 9C. I frowned. What? I didn't have any signs in my yard. I hadn't even put up a welcome mat yet. Confused, I walked out to the sidewalk to check. And there it was. A tiny cardboard sign staked into my grass right next to the bushes. It had some gibberish political slogan on it, nothing I recognized. It was crooked, weather-stained, like it had been dragged out of someone's garage sale. I didn't put it there. I knew I didn't. But then it hit me, I had seen it before. In Karen's tote bag. On the doorbell footage. Just before she came up and stole the first package. That was when the realization hit me like a brick. She wasn't just enforcing rules. She was creating the violations herself. And she was doing it to keep people in check. To scare them. To send a message, don't question me. The next day I left my trash bins tucked neatly in the garage. No chance for a new violation there. But I still got a notice. Excess noise after 9 p.m., reported by multiple residents. It was just me and my laptop that night. The loudest thing I'd done was microwave popcorn. Then Jan told me something that made my skin crawl. She's been accessing the resident contact list, she said, voice low. I used to help out at the HOA office. She has everyone's phone numbers, emails, even employer info if it's on file. What would she need that for? I asked, already dreading the answer. Well, Jan hesitated. You remember Dale, the guy with the red truck? He told me his boss got an anonymous email saying he was running an illegal business from his garage. Total lie, of course. But a week earlier, Dale had voted against one of Karen's proposals at a board meeting. She didn't need a majority to rule. She ruled by fear. Now I had proof of theft. Proof of planted violations. And whispers of her using personal information to retaliate against anyone who dared cross her. This was no longer just a nosy neighbor story. This was turning into something darker. And I was ready to bring it into the light. I knew I had enough to go to the police, but something kept nagging at me. What if she talks her way out of it? What if I'm the one who ends up looking crazy? I'd seen how good Karen was at twisting facts. And while I had video evidence, I needed something bigger. I didn't just want to stop her. I wanted to expose the entire game she was playing. So I started knocking on doors. Not in a dramatic way, more like, "Hey, I'm your neighbor from across the street, just wanted to ask you something weird." And the story started pouring out. One woman, new mom, sweet lady, barely 30, told me Karen fined her for baby-related clutter. What did that mean? A stroller left on the porch for 20 minutes while she changed a diaper. Violation letter the next morning. A guy 2 blocks over got cited for unauthorized vehicle storage. The vehicle? A brand new lawnmower he'd wheeled out for 10 minutes while organizing his garage. And one elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Feldman, said their Christmas decorations had been reported as religiously excessive. Their decorations? A wreath. That's it. A wreath. What stunned me wasn't just how petty the violations were. Was the pattern. All of them had, in some small way, pushed back against Karen. Questioned a policy. Voted against her. Or simply ignored one of her ridiculous memos. They were being punished. I pulled out my laptop that night and created a private Google Drive folder. I uploaded all 3 videos of Karen stealing packages. Added screenshots of the violation letters. Even the footage of her planting that fake political sign near my bushes. Then I left a short message on the Lakebridge Neighborhood Facebook page. If you've had strange HOA violations, missing packages, or felt personally targeted, please DM me. I need to show you something. Within 24 hours, I had over 30 messages. People were ready to talk. Turns out they just needed someone to start. One neighbor, Ted, works in IT, told me he had security camera footage of Karen trying to remove his solar-powered lawn lights in the middle of the night. Another said she once caught Karen photographing kids at the playground and calling them property hazards in her notes. But the message that made my jaw drop came from someone unexpected. Elaine Rodriguez, the HOA board secretary. We'd never spoken, not once. But she messaged me with one sentence. "I've seen things. Call me." I called her that night. Elaine's voice was calm, but the things she said made my blood pressure spike. "She's been running this place like a dictatorship for almost 8 years, she said. And no one's challenged her because she always finds a way to shut people down." "How?" I asked. "Backdoor fines. Noise complaints. Suddenly their kids aren't allowed at the pool. One guy lost his job after she sent his employer a complaint about questionable behavior on HOA property. The guy was watering his plants in a tank top. She paused. I wanted to quit. But I stayed because I hoped someone would eventually do what you're doing. She sent me a PDF. It was a digital copy of the HOA contact sheet. Residents' names, addresses, phone numbers, emails, even emergency contacts. And next to some of the names? Little handwritten notes scanned into the file. Troublemaker. Doesn't like me. Possible political. Karen had been keeping a blacklist. Elaine agreed to testify if it came to that. Now I had video. Witnesses. A whistleblower. A paper trail. I felt ready. But just when I thought I was in control, Karen struck again. That Friday I came home from grabbing groceries and found my front yard trashed. Dog poop smeared on the walkway. Eggs cracked on the porch. And worst of all, my car, which had been parked in the driveway, had the words HOA scum scrawled across the hood in soap. It looked like a teenage prank. But I knew better. I checked the footage. At 2:12 a.m., two figures approached my house. One short, one taller. The shorter one wore a hoodie pulled tight, but her walk, her stance, was Karen. She wasn't just violating her own rules anymore. She was going full scorched earth. And that was it. No more waiting. No more gathering. The next morning I printed everything. Footage stills. Screenshots. The contact sheet Elaine sent me. Testimonies. I walked into the local police station, sat down with a community officer and said, I think I have a case of mail theft, harassment, and misuse of private information. And I've got proof. The officer took one look at the footage of Karen stealing my package and raised his eyebrows. We've dealt with HOA drama before, he said, but this is a new one. He took it seriously. Thank God. That same day, a detective followed up and asked if I could share access to the Google folder. I did. They asked me to sit tight while they reviewed it all and got a warrant ready, because this wasn't going to be a slap on the wrist. If she'd been intercepting mail on purpose, especially medication or legal documents, we were looking at federal offenses. Meanwhile, the neighborhood buzzed. Folks started noticing two squad cars parked across from Karen's house the following day. And me? I sat on my porch with a cold lemonade, watching Karen pace in front of her picture window, curtain pulled halfway open. For the first time in years, she looked nervous. She should have been. Because the storm was just about to hit. It happened faster than I expected. The police didn't knock on her door quietly or wait until she was alone. No, they picked the perfect moment. It was Saturday morning, the day of the monthly HOA board meeting. Karen always hosted them in her living room, surrounded by her favorite audience. The other board members too afraid to challenge her and the few neighbors still under her spell. At exactly 10:32 a.m., two squad cars pulled up to Karen's curb. Officers in uniform stepped out, calm, professional, but with purpose. They didn't hesitate. Walked straight up her driveway, past the hydrangeas she fined someone else for planting too close to the sidewalk, and knocked on the front door with authority. Karen opened the door, still wearing that smug little smile she reserved for moments when she thought she had the upper hand. It vanished the second she saw the badges. I wasn't there, but according to 3 different neighbors, who suddenly were very invested in HOA affairs, here's what happened. Officer, ma'am, we need to speak with you about several reports of stolen mail and harassment. Karen, I'm the HOA president. If you're referring to confiscated deliveries, I was well within my rights. Officer, actually you're not. Mail theft is a federal crime. And we have you on video, multiple times. Her face, they said, went pale. Like her entire blood supply had just fled the scene. Still, Karen didn't fold. She insisted she had documentation. She pulled out her beloved folder of HOA rules, started flipping pages, quoting bylaws that had nothing to do with federal law. The officers remained patient, but firm. Then they asked to see her garage. And that's where the real bomb dropped. Inside were 12 packages, not just mine. Boxes of various sizes, all unopened, tucked away like trophies. Some addressed to neighbors I didn't even know. One box had a medical alert sticker on it. Another had a child's toy poking through torn cardboard. When the officers asked why she hadn't returned them, Karen snapped. They didn't meet visual standards for community deliveries. I was holding them for review. Yeah, that was her defense. By the time they pulled out the evidence bags, Karen had stopped talking altogether. Just stood there trembling, her lip twitching, hands clenched at her sides. I watched it all unfold from across the street. The officers came out with her in handcuffs, real ones. Not just a warning. Not a citation. Actual cuffs. And the most surreal part? She still tried to look in control. As she passed my house, she threw me a glare, not rage, not shame, but pure, seething disbelief. like I had betrayed her. Like she still believed she ran the place. The next day news spread like wildfire. People who hadn't spoken in months were suddenly exchanging texts, gossiping on the community app, even knocking on each other's doors just to say, "Did you hear? I couldn't walk my dog without someone stopping me. You were the one who caught her, right? You sent that footage to the cops? You think she's gonna do time?" Everyone had a story about Karen. How she micromanaged their lawn height. How she rewrote meeting minutes to hide objections. How she once reported a neighbor's teenage son for loitering in his own driveway. Even Elaine, the board secretary, came by with a Tupperware of lemon bars and said, "You know, I always hated those meetings." The best part? That week, the HOA held an emergency vote and removed Karen from her position. Unanimously. No one abstained. Not even the folks who used to support her. Like some spell had finally broken. But the cherry on top? 2 days after the arrest, the police returned the missing packages. One by one they dropped them off at the correct homes. When mine arrived, I opened it just to see what was inside. A wireless keyboard, some business forms, and a pack of blue gel pens. That was it. No dangerous contraband. No visual violations. Just office supplies. All this chaos, over pens? Her court date was scheduled quickly. The case was too clear-cut to delay. I showed up. So did 3 other neighbors who'd had their packages stolen. We sat in the back row of the courtroom, quiet but alert as Karen was led in. She looked tired. Like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her roots were showing, and her cardigan had been replaced with a stiff beige blazer that did her no favors. The judge read the charges. Multiple counts of mail theft, harassment, and misuse of HOA authority. Karen tried to speak. I was enforcing standards. These people. The judge cut her off. You were stealing mail, Ms. Longstreet. That's a federal offense. But the packages weren't. They weren't yours, the judge said flatly. The trial didn't last long. The evidence was airtight. The videos, the documents, the witness statements. Even Elaine testified, clearly, calmly, bravely. When the verdict came down, guilty on all counts, Karen didn't flinch. She just stared straight ahead, like she couldn't believe the system had turned on her. Her sentence? 6 months of house arrest. A $5,000 fine. Mandatory restitution to every neighbor affected. 3 years probation. And permanent removal from any HOA board, anywhere, ever again. As the court officer fitted her ankle monitor, she muttered, "This is my neighborhood. I was protecting it." But no one believed her anymore. Not even herself. Karen doesn't patrol our streets anymore. And nobody misses her. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We've got more real HOA tales coming your way. And hey, may every Karen, wherever they hide, finally get what's coming to them. See you in the next one.